Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my top 5 favorite movies of all time. But I'm not going to hit all top 5 in this one video. I'm going to do 5 videos, one for each movie. Why? Because I love movies, and when it comes to my favorite movies of all time, honestly, I could just go on and on forever. So if I do one video per movie, then boom, I'm covered, and I have time to talk about it, have time to have you respond about it. And when it comes to my top 5, it's like this is not any particular order. It's not like, oh, here's number 5, my least favorite of my top 5 favorite. That's when it comes to my top 5, it's hard to pick which is the best of the best. So really, the top 5 are just all my favorite movies of all time. So going over some of my favorite movies, can't wait to hear what some of yours are. So I'm already gonna cheat. Lord of the Rings. I know, it's 3 movies, but honestly, it is one solid story. I think J.R.R. Tolkien wrote it as one story, and the publishers told him to break it up into 3, and they filmed this like it was one solid movie, broken up into 3, and it is one solid story, even if it is 3 movies. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cheat for my very first video on this and say the Lord of the Rings trilogy is my top 5 favorite. And one of the reasons that this just fits in my favorite movies of all time is because it's like, you can't just pick one character. I mean, every character, all their arcs has something relatable, has something that I just feel like reaches out and grabs us, something that we can cling to and hang on to. Like, for instance, I could watch all 3 of these movies and spend all 3 just following Aragorn's story and just connecting with his character. Because the thing that really speaks to me about his character is he's a born leader. He's got so many strengths. He's a great swordsman. He's a born leader. He's got humility up to his eyeballs. Like, he has a good, solid, integrity-filled character. But he's dealing with fear. The fear that he's dealing with is the fear that if he steps into that position of authority and he steps out and he becomes king, he fears that he will fail the same way his father Isildur failed. His forefather Isildur, who had the one chance to destroy the One Ring and instead gave in to its power and utterly failed, and now they're in the position that they're in. And so you have Aragorn, who is born to be king. It's in his blood to be king. He is a leader. He is humble. He does have integrity. He is everything a great leader needs to be, but he's reluctant to take that throne because of his fear of failure, because of his fear of succumbing to the same temptation that his forefather came to. And what this whole character arc is about, it's his story, it's his journey of putting his doubts aside, putting his fear aside, or, as Elrond says,
put aside the ranger, become who you are born to be.
So when he puts aside all of that and steps into the position that he was born to be, he really rises up above where his fathers were. He's able to face down Sauron, man. I mean, just the incredible things he does when he sets that fear aside. But what speaks to me about his character and why I can just follow his character so much is that journey to overcoming, that journey to putting that stuff aside, and how that's not easy, but it needs to be done. And it's just that whole journey I can relate to. Another time I could watch this movie and completely follow Samwise's story and just be on Sam's side the whole way. I mean, this is a guy who is faithful to his friend, who will never leave his friend's side, even when his friend goes crazy listening to Gollum and says, "Go away, Sam, go away." And then he comes back and he fights the giant spider for Frodo. I mean, it's for saving the world, but it's also for Frodo. They've developed such an amazing friendship. So watching his story and his loyalty, it's something that really appeals to me, and it's something that really stands out to me. And then Gollum. Oh my gosh. Yes, precious, Gollum's story, yes. I mean, his story is so fascinating, fighting those inner demons. He has that moment of freedom. He has that moment where he overcomes the creature Gollum living inside of him, and he becomes Smeagol again for that brief window in Two Towers. But then the moment pain enters, the moment things aren't going just right, he reverted right back to what he knew. And I feel like something that really can reach out to us about Gollum, it's like he's like this massive picture of addiction. He loves and hates the ring as he loves and hates himself. He craves it. He desires it. It's his precious. And it's just that inner struggle inside that I think every single one of us at one time or another can relate to. And it's just such a fascinating story arc. And he has the opportunity to be that force for good, but ultimately didn't choose it, which gives it just such a tragic ending. And he's a fascinating character to watch. And then another character that I think that I could go through and watch, and this one's harder, it's Frodo. And it's harder because he's the burden bearer. And there's nothing glorious about that. There's nothing beautiful about that. Bearing that burden, walking evil to its destruction, watching its effects on his mind, watching its effects on his attitude and his heart. It's hard to watch, but he was the one who bore the burden. And I think at one time or another, all of us have had to bear heavy burdens in our lives, and we know it's not pretty. So we like the bigger pictures of Aragorn. We like the pictures of Samwise. We like, you know, the picture of Gandalf the Wizard. We love watching that stuff. Sometimes Frodo can be harder because we can relate to that struggle of bearing those heavy things in life. So each character, every time I watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I could find myself any one of these characters following their arc, finding something extremely relatable and something very true to life. And one of the things that really speaks to me in watching this, if you read the Silmarillion, you know that there are these two forces. They're not equal. You have Iluvatar, who's God, who created Middle-earth. And then you have basically the darkness. I forget his name. I can't really pronounce it. It starts with an M, but Sauron comes from that guy. And so you have this darkness that's constantly trying to snuff out the light, that's constantly trying to take over. And when you watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you see it. You see darkness is big, it's pronounced, it's known, it's seen. People can see the Eye of Sauron. People can see the effects of Sauron. The evil and the darkness is seen, it's known, it's felt. And you just see this evil will, this malicious will trying to manipulate things and maneuver things like a game of chess. But then you have the light, you have Iluvatar, and you don't really see Iluvatar. You don't really hear his name mentioned in the movies. You don't really see the effects as pronounced as you see what evil's doing. But what you do see is the ring not coming to people who are easily corruptible, but coming to the smallest and the weakest, coming to the hobbits. And then the small and the weak was used to shame the strong and the proud. How incredible is that? You see the light working through characters like Gandalf. You see it working through characters like Aragorn. You see it pressing them into their destinies and leading them to what they are called to do, and in fulfilling those callings, defeating darkness. And it's such an amazing journey to watch. And then, of course, light wins. Period. But it's fascinating to watch that struggle and something that I can relate to. So that is the first of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. In 1 week, I'll be doing another video of one of my other top 5 favorite movies of all time. What I want to hear from you are, what are some of your favorite movies of all time? So leave that in the comments. Let's talk about our favorite movies ever. I love it. Leave that in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button and become a Durbanian. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button and be notified the moment I drop new videos. Please like and share this video and check out the other videos on my channel. Got lots of great movie reviews, movie talk. I have a segment reading way too much into where I get really philosophical about movies and things like that. All kinds of awesome things that I'm super excited about. And since I'm talking Lord of the Rings, we went to New Zealand and got to go see places where they filmed all these epic scenes for Lord of the Rings. So I have that video you can check out, so much more. So check all of that out right now. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.